You're sitting right there. Same couch, same room, same person, but something feels off. They're talking, or maybe they're not, and you can feel that quiet distance that wasn't there before. You say something simple, and they give you something minimal. A short answer, a half look, a quick exit from the moment. And suddenly, you're not in a conversation anymore. You're standing outside of it. And in your head, it sounds like this. Why do they pull away like this? Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel so alone when I'm right next to them? Is this just how they are? Or is this about me? Here's the truth most people get wrong. It's not that they don't care. It's that they're scared in a way you can't see. Avoidant patterns don't come from a lack of love. They come from a fear of being emotionally exposed. And if you don't understand that fear, you'll keep misreading distance as rejection. You're not failing at love. You're trying to read a language no one ever taught you. By the end of this, you're going to understand how avoidant personalities recognize fear, both in themselves and in you, and how that invisible fear shapes everything in your relationship. Most couples believe distance means disinterest, but the real truth is, distance often means overwhelm. Most people think avoidant partners are cold, unemotional, detached, hard to reach. But what's actually happening beneath the surface is that their nervous system is constantly scanning for emotional pressure, not love, not connection, pressure. And when they feel it, even subtly, they pull back to protect themselves. Not because they don't want you, but because closeness feels like losing control. Here's the part no one explains. Avoidant individuals are incredibly sensitive to fear, not just their own, but yours. They can feel when you're anxious, when you need reassurance, when you're leaning in emotionally. And instead of moving closer, their system reads it as danger. So they withdraw. Not louder conversations, not more effort, not more trying to fix things, but understanding that what looks like distance is often self-protection in disguise. And once you see that clearly, everything starts to make sense. Most couples don't realize that avoidant partners are always scanning. Most people in relationships assume emotional signals are spoken, but avoidants read what's unspoken first. They feel tension before words happen. They notice shifts in tone, silence, energy, and their nervous system is wired to detect emotional demand even when you're not saying anything directly. So when you feel anxious, they feel it as pressure. You say something like, "Hey, are we okay?" And what they hear is, "You're not enough right now." But if you say, "I've been feeling a little off lately. I just wanted to share that with you," their system hears something completely different. It hears space. It hears no attack. And when you do that, they stop bracing and start listening. And the walls between you begin to soften without force. Silence feels like rejection, but for avoidance, it's protection. Most couples interpret withdrawal as a lack of care, but for them, silence is emotional survival. They're not thinking, "I don't care." They're thinking, "I don't know how to handle this without losing myself." That's the internal monologue. I might mess this up. I don't know what to say. I need space to feel okay again. When you say, "Why are you ignoring me?" they shut down even more. But when you say, "I can feel you pulling back. I'm here when you're ready," something shifts inside them. I'm not being chased. I'm being allowed. And that's when the walls soften, without either of you having to force anything. Most couples think more emotion equals more connection. But for avoidance, emotional intensity feels like danger. Raised voices, tears, urgency, their system doesn't read it as love. It reads it as chaos, like a smoke detector going off even when there's no fire. When you say, "Why won't you just talk to me about this?" their system goes straight into defense. But when you say, "I care about this, but I want to talk in a way that feels safe for both of us," something changes. Their nervous system slows down, their guard lowers, and instead of escaping the moment, they start staying in it. Avoidants are quiet observers. Most people think they're emotionally unaware, but they're actually hyper-aware, just not expressive. They notice when you feel insecure, when you're seeking validation, when you're afraid of losing them. And here's the deeper layer. Your fear activates their fear. You lean in, they pull back. Not because you're too much, but because your need feels like something they might fail at. When you ask, "Do you still love me?" their internal reaction is, "I can't guarantee anything. I don't want to disappoint." But when you say, "I've been needing a little more connection lately," their system hears honesty instead of pressure. And that's when they move toward you instead of away. Most couples think avoidants fear intimacy, but the real truth is, they fear losing themselves. Somewhere in their past, they learned that closeness means giving up control. So when connection deepens, they feel like they're disappearing. When you say, "Why don't you ever open up to me?" they feel pushed further into themselves. But when you say, "I want to know you, but I don't need you to be anyone different," something shifts. I can be myself here. And that's when real intimacy begins to form. Not forced, not rushed, but real. Most couples believe persistence creates closeness, but with avoidance, pressure creates distance. The more you push, the more they retreat, because their system hears urgency as danger. When you say, "We need to fix this right now," they feel trapped. But when you say, "This matters to me, but we can take our time with it," their nervous system finally gets a moment to breathe. And when it calms, they come back on their own. Not because they were forced, but because they felt safe enough to return. Avoidant partners don't come closer because you convince them. They come closer because they feel safe. Not judged, not pressured, not controlled, but accepted. This isn't a communication trick. This is emotional maturity. When you stop trying to get a reaction and start creating an environment, when you stop trying to fix them and start understanding them, something changes inside them. I don't have to run here. And that's when everything starts to feel real again. Not like a struggle, not like a negotiation, but like a place you both can finally rest in. This isn't about changing them, and it's not about shrinking yourself either. It's about understanding what's really happening beneath the surface, so you stop reacting to distance and start responding to fear. Because when you see clearly, you show up differently. You stop chasing, you stop assuming, you stop taking everything personally, and you become someone who creates safety instead of tension. This isn't a checklist, it's a shift in who you are in love. And when you become that person, your relationship doesn't just feel different, it becomes something real. Because at the end of the day, people don't pull away from love. They pull away from the fear they don't know how to handle.